Hello and welcome back to Easy Editing with EDIUS. We're going to move on now in our lessons and deal with how to capture, how to import media into a project. Before you can really do much in the way of editing, you need to get media into your project. And there are actually quite a few different methods of getting media into your project for editing. So we are going to break up this module into 7 or 8 smaller tutorials just to make it a little bit more manageable. In this first tutorial, we are going to discuss capturing video from a camera or deck. This assumes, of course, that your video has been recorded to tape. Many of today's cameras are actually tapeless, and you simply transfer your video files to your computer hard drives either directly from your camera or by using a card reader. For this tutorial, we are going to focus in on tape-based systems. We are also assuming that your camera or deck has a FireWire out. We would also like to assume that you are running a fairly recent version of EDIUS. If you are running EDIUS at 5.0, I strongly recommend that you upgrade your software to the 5.5 version. It is a free upgrade and can be downloaded from the Canopus Grass Valley website for registered users. I believe that the current free trial is already at 5.5, so if you have downloaded that, then you should be good. If you are unsure what version you are running at, you can always check under the menu option Help and Version Info, and there EDIUS will tell you what version you are running at. If you are running an earlier version of EDIUS, you are going to be faced with some challenges as you use the video capture tool. I strongly recommend getting the latest version. It will be worth the upgrade costs in the advancements that have been made to the capture tool alone. If that is not possible, look for the free tutorial online at ediustips.com called How to Get Media into Your Project. And look for the section that deals with older versions of the capture tool. There are some tips there that outline some workarounds that you can do to get past some of the limitations that this tool has had in earlier versions of EDIUS. If your version is up to date, capturing video is almost as easy as plugging in your camera or deck and pressing the capture button. I say almost because the first time that you do this, you may experience a few challenges. Your deck may not shake hands with EDIUS. You may have your settings wrong, and so things might not work just like we're showing you in the tutorials. So let's take a look at some of these potential problems. Let's first of all go up to Settings and select Application Settings and go to your deck settings. And here, make sure that you have checked Confirm Real Number when setting input device, and Confirm File Name, and select Before Capture. Make sure that that is on, Before Capture. Also, check down here under Automatically Divide Files. We want to make sure that all of these have been checked. So hit OK, or hit Apply first if you've made some changes, and go ahead and hit OK. And now let's see if your deck or camera is recognized by EDIUS. Go ahead and power up your deck or camera and plug it in to your computer using a FireWire cable. And you might get an initial message from Microsoft that a new hardware device has been found and is ready to use. Now, in EDIUS, go up to the menu options and under Capture, notice that you have 2 options for your FireWire or OHCI inputs. And for new editors, this can be a little confusing. Some might even check behind their computer to see if there are 2 different types of FireWires that they should be looking for, one for standard definition and one for high definition. And there actually are a few different flavors of FireWire, but this is not what EDIUS is asking for. What EDIUS is asking for here is, are you sending a standard definition signal or are you sending a high definition video signal? So if your tapes are high definition and you believe that your camera or deck is sending a high-definition signal to EDIUS, then go ahead and select this regardless of what FireWire input you have chosen on your computer. In the next dialog box that you are presented with, EDIUS is basically asking you what type of file format that you would like to save your captured clips to. And you basically have two options here. You can save it to the native MPEG file format that most HDV cameras record to when they record to tape. Or you can choose to have EDIUS convert these files on the fly to a Canopus HQ codec, an AVI file. And the advantage of keeping them in the MPEG format is that you will be dealing with much smaller file sizes. They are about the same file size as the standard definition DV AVI files used to be. So you can get a lot more media on one hard drive. However, a lot of editors prefer to have EDIUS convert these on the fly to a high definition Canopus HQ AVI file. And the advantage of having it in the Canopus HQ file is that you will now be in a file format that is native to EDIUS and Canopus and will allow for a lot more real time. However, for my workflow, I usually prefer just to capture to the native MPEG file format. The latest versions of EDIUS will play these on your timeline basically in real time, depending on the speed of your computer. And you always have the option of batch converting the MPEG files to Canopus HQ files, so it's always something that you can do after the fact. Now, of all of this big list, which one do you choose? That's the question that most new editors are asking. And it really depends on the type of camera you have, what camera you use to shoot the tape that you're trying to capture. If you're in NTSC land, you're going to want to find a setting that has been shot at like the 59.94i for interlaced. If you're in PAL country, you're more likely to want to start with the 50 interlaced or the 25 progressive. Because I'm from NTSC land, my camera shoots at the 59.94 interlaced, and so if I was wanting to capture to Canopus HQ files, I would choose that setting. If I want to just stay in the MPEG format, I will choose this setting. And if you know that you have shot your footage on one of these other flavors of video, you might as well go ahead and choose that setting. In fact, if you don't choose the right setting, EDIUS may not even recognize the signal coming from your camera or your deck. If you're not sure what format your camera has shot the tape at, you might want to get out your camera manual and take a look and see what your camera is shooting at. For me, I'm going to go with MPEG 1440 by 1080, shooting at 59.94 interlaced. In the next dialog box, EDIUS asks you to tell it the name of your tape. The real number. By default, EDIUS is set to read the user bit information that is on the tape itself. And if you're working with tapes where you know that the camera person has taken the time to use the user bit to label the tapes, then you can go ahead and leave that checked. However, if you're like me, there's no time in the field to do that type of thing, so I will go ahead and uncheck that, and I will insert my real name or my tape name. And if everything is working properly, you should at this point be able to control your deck using the play, fast forward, rewind buttons at the bottom of your play monitor. Now, if they are grayed out like mine are at the moment, it means that something is still wrong. The deck is not shaking hands with EDIUS, and we need to do a little troubleshooting. Now, EDIUS is actually very good about communicating with most FireWire devices that are out there. And so what usually is the problem, if you don't see that you have control of your deck at this point or your camera, usually what the problem is that EDIUS is not receiving the type of signal that you said that you were going to send. You remember under capture, we chose generic HDV. And so we were telling EDIUS to look for a high-definition signal. But for some reason, we are not sending a high-definition signal from our deck or our camera. And there could be a couple of different reasons for that. It could be the last person who used your deck or camera had it set to standard definition. And so even though your tapes may be high definition and you've put a high definition tape into your camera or deck, that deck or camera might be actually sending out a standard definition signal. And if you've chosen the generic HDV preset for the input, and all you are sending is a standard definition signal, then EDIUS won't recognize it. But you're saying, oh, but my deck is a high definition deck. I don't understand. Well, even high definition decks or high definition cameras can be set to send a standard definition signal, either by a menu option or even just by the last person who used your deck, maybe used a standard definition tape and your deck automatically switched to standard definition and for some reason or another didn't switch back automatically when you put in your high definition tape. So if for some reason EDIUS is not recognizing your deck or your camera, it probably has something to do with the type of signal that you're sending it. And there are several different things that you can try and do to troubleshoot this. The easiest thing to start with is just to power down your deck and start up again and see if that helps. If you are still grayed out here and you don't have control of your deck, something else that you can try is to play a little bit of your tape. Go ahead and press play on your deck. And you'll see that now that the deck has played a little bit of the high definition tape, my deck has automatically switched to a high definition signal, and suddenly I now have control of the tape using my control buttons here. We'll rewind the tape to the beginning. Now we're ready to capture. And you can do that several different ways. One of the easiest ways is to just simply hit the capture button. Now, if you're not seeing that capture button there, it could be that you have set up your screen so that your play monitor is so small that your capture button has disappeared. It's no longer there. If that's the case, simply drag your windows out so that the capture button shows up again. Or if you're working on such a small screen that is not an option, you can use the little drop-down menu option here to reveal the capture button, or you can simply hit F9 to start the capture tool. Let's go ahead and cancel that and actually stop the tape. And choose our capture tool again. Because there are three different things here that we want to be sure are set properly. First of all is EDIUS would like to know where you would like to save your media. And it's a good idea not to use your system drive. So let's go ahead and find another drive on this computer. And I believe I have already defined a folder for this tape, Burma. So now my media will be saved to a file folder on my D drive called Burma. Now you'll notice that EDIUS has remembered the tape name that we inserted earlier. So the only thing left for us to do is to start a file name system. And what you do is just type in a base name, and I simply just use my tape name for my file name. And everyone will probably have their own tape naming conventions. What I like to do is when I'm out on a shoot, I simply name my tapes by the country that I'm shooting in, the year, in this case 2009, and then each of the tape numbers. If you know that you're going to be shooting a lot of tape, you might want to have an extra 0 in there, 023 instead of just 23. And this way they're very easy to keep track of. And when I'm capturing tape, I like to set up the file name to be the same as the tape name or the real number. And that way each clip is beautifully identified with the particular tape. And that way, should I ever have to rebuild a project, say a hard drive goes down, I will always know based on every clip where to find it, and it makes it very easy to rebuild a project using the batch capture. And now, once we've set up this one base name, as we capture the tape, EDIUS will automatically, auto-sequentially name each clip that comes in. Let's go ahead and hit OK, and EDIUS should start capturing. And if you have set up your settings, like we showed you under application settings and deck settings, EDIUS will automatically divide your clips based on when you paused your camera. So every time you paused your camera, EDIUS will make a new clip. And it'll let you know each time it does that by incrementing the number of divided files. So as you keep your eye on your capture, you can see that EDIUS is automatically dividing those files. Now, before we go any further, we should probably address the issue of what to capture. Now, if you've shot an event like a wedding or the school play, it's a no-brainer. You just want to capture the whole tape or the whole series of tapes. If your tape is B-roll for a documentary and you are old school, you may be thinking that what you want to do at this point is manually go through and log your tape, selecting a list of in and out points, and then let EDIUS do a batch capture. Well, EDIUS will let you do that. However, I find it much easier to simply capture the whole tape, even though most of my stuff is B-roll. I just find it so much easier to let EDIUS do the work. Let EDIUS capture the whole tape, divide the tape up into small clips, and then once the clips are in the system, as I'm organizing them into my bins, if I see clips that I know I'll never use, it's easy to delete them. It is actually also a lot less stress on your tapes not to log them. Also a lot less wear and tear on your deck or camera, not to have to be shuttling back and forth in the log process and then also in the batch capture process. It can put a lot of wear and tear on your tapes, stretching your tapes, which will lead to dropouts at a later date, and also a lot easier on your camera or deck. HD tapes are actually a lot more difficult to log than the old SD tapes were, and so I believe for many reasons it's just better all around to let EDIUS capture your whole tape in one sweep. Start the tape rolling and come back an hour later to insert your next tape. Okay, and so after you have captured the section of tape, or let's say your whole tape is now finished, you can hit stop at any time, and EDIUS will then bring those clips into your default bin that's open. And here they all show up. Now, for those who insist on logging their tapes and then having EDIUS capture the tape or capture only the selected clips using a batch capture, let's just for a moment take a quick look at how EDIUS does that. Go ahead and hit play on your control buttons here underneath your play monitor. And by using your keyboard shortcuts, J, K, and L, you can shuttle your tape back and forth or pause. Just go ahead and hit your L key, for example. Hit it a couple times, and you'll see that EDIUS will fast forward your tape. Using the K key, you can stop your tape. Hitting your space bar plays the tape. And if you see a place where you would like to set an in point, just go ahead and hit the I key. And wait for it. For your out point, go ahead and hit the O key. And you've set your first in and out point. And you can send that to your batch capture by hitting Control B. Now, to confirm that you've actually sent that information to your batch capture bin, maybe just go ahead and open that. It's under this drop-down arrow, or if your windows are actually open wide enough, it probably shows up there. Add to batch capture list. Well, it's a good idea if you're actually doing this to have that batch capture window open to confirm that you've actually sent that information to the batch capture list. So go ahead again, find your in point with maybe shuttling forward a little bit. Okay, there's a pretty good in point. Well, this is what I'm saying. HDV tapes just are not designed well for logging. Hitting play. Okay, hit your I point. Hit another I point, let's say. And go ahead and hit your out point and hit Control B. And what happened to our window? Let's see. Let's maybe bring it down here and try that again. An in point, out point, Control B, and you see that it does show up in your batch capture list. And then once you have logged your tape and you've chosen all of your in and out points, then it's just a matter of hitting the capture button, and EDIUS will go back. It asks you first of all to make sure that you've got that particular tape still in your deck, just to confirm that, and then will automatically go and capture all of those clips that you've defined with an in and an out point. And when it's finished with the first clip, it goes on automatically to the second clip all the way through the tape, finding the media that you have selected. Okay, that's it for capturing media from a camera or deck.